Hey, it's Password Dots, and today we're making Animal Crossing villagers. Now you may be thinking to yourself, but Dots, you already made a video about Animal Crossing villagers. Yes. But I wanted to make a video that was specifically addressing how to make the base body so that, you could get a nice framework to make your own player character. Wouldn't that be fun? I hope it's fun. I hope that's why you're watching. If it is why you're watching, then keep watching, because this is Let's Stitch, baby. Alright, let's go. Alright everyone, this should be a very simple project to follow. We only need one sock, and it can be whatever flesh color you're looking for, but in fact we don't even need the whole sock. We can we can just forget about that ankle part. So we'll start with the head, as I usually like to do, and we'll take the toe here. The toe is usually where I get a lot of the head from, because it's already got this nice round shape. And look at that, it fits perfectly with the little pattern that I've drawn here. Snip that off. And then from the toe to the heel, we'll make our body, which is just, slightly longer rectangle shape. Tilt that a little bit, there we go. And we'll set this stuff aside for later. We will get to that later. Right now, we're focused on these little pieces here, just the head and the body. We're going to flip them inside out, because when you're sewing a piece that has not been stuffed, you do want to turn that inside out so you have the good side facing out. Don't know how else to really elaborate on that subject. And we're going to hand stitch this. We're going to use the little old back stitch to just get from one side of the jawline down to sort of the center where the neck would go. And once we reach that point there towards the bottom, we're just going to leave a gap, because once we sew both sides, we're going to want to flip that through the hole. Now, for the head, hand stitching was fine because it wasn't a whole lot of stitching. But for that body, girl, we're gonna do something a little different, because hand stitching, that would just take too much time. So instead, what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull out a little old sewing machine here. Get that going. Using a sewing machine does have benefits. Those lines are a lot cleaner and tighter if you're stitching with a machine as opposed to just your hands. I mean, that would just take forever. So, if you've got one, I recommend using it, but if you don't, that's fine. I went years without having a sewing machine. In fact, I had been intimidated by sewing machines for quite a while. So we're going to use a sewing machine for the limbs as well, and you can see I'm just going to cut another rectangle out of the sock here, and I can use that to get all 4 limbs. Just sizing that up, cut on one end, and then cut another end, and then we just cut out the middle. We cut that in half and flip them inside out. I have made the mistake of accidentally sewing on the right side instead of the wrong side. That's never really fun, but hey man, it's real satisfying to take a nice straight line and zip that right through the sewing machine, get these little logs going. That's nice. So you flip those right side out again. Then we can start stuffing up all our little pieces. Take a little stuffing. And fill up our head. Nice and firm. Not too firm, though. You don't want to, the weaving of a sock can sometimes really show that stuffing through there. So you don't want to get that too tight. And then we stuff our little patata, little petite, little papas frites right there, and I'll just insert there eventually. And we'll scoop these up, stuff those as well. And get a little excess in there. That's no big deal. You can just snip that off and get yourself some nice even logs. Just to keep all the stuffing in, we'll go ahead and use a ladder stitch to close all that up. Now's the opportunity to put any extra stuffing in there, just in case you don't want to go back. And we do still need some hands and feet, so got a little pattern here that we'll use to, I'm going to try and, it's just a very small piece, but we're going to try and use a sewing machine. Just take that very slow, methodically. Even though the feet are such small pieces, it can sometimes be a bit better to get consistency with a sewing machine. Also got to flip that inside out. Oops. But yeah, I think it just sometimes sewing by hand, it can be hard to gauge your sizing, your relative sizing. So if we want the feet to be even, I'm just going to try using a sewing machine here. That is just a little tedious. Just a little stop and go, stop and go. While we're at it, also stitched out some little just C shapes for the ears. And you'll see how we sort of cut that out there. And got ourselves some little ear shapes. We gotta clean our little workstation up. Just scoop all that out of there. Get yourself a little dustpan. A little $1 dustpan. And now we sewed this entire thing up, so you might be wondering, well, how are we gonna flip that right side out again? Well, if the scissors are any indication, we're just gonna take a little snip. And not too big, just a tiny one, sort of towards where you want the heel to live. And then we can flip that and stuff it up. And there we go. Those little beans are pretty even. We're also going to take some square shapes to make our little hands. The hands are cool because you kind of like make a little purse out of them. I'm actually just looking at these, and I can already tell that those are going to be really small. So just going to throw those away, and we're going to make a bigger circle. In general, I guess it's always good to start bigger because you can trim down, but you can't add once you cut. I'm just always I try and be really conservative with my socks, and sometimes that can just mean I waste a whole lot of sock because I'm just not using enough. That was a little tangent, I guess. So these little squares, right? We're just going to use a running stitch and make a circle all the way around. And the whole thing will kind of cinch up like a coin purse or like a bell bag, huh? You get, what I'm saying? With you put the bells inside, and they go, bang, bang. So that running stitch, you pull it, it cinches the whole thing up nice and tight. And once you stuff it, you get a nice little round ball. And at the top, you're gonna get a little bit of, hanger overage at the top, but you just kind of cinch that up, and all of that's going to live inside the arm once you sew it. Look at that. Get them all lined up, ready to go. Now we can start attaching everything. We're going to use that running stitch and close up that hole a little bit. It doesn't need to be closed the whole way, but we do want to make that hole a bit smaller, just in case the legs don't cover it the whole way. What's cool is that the pressure from the running stitch, the tension that you create with the thread, it creates a tiny little bulge at the front, kind of like a nice little, classic cartoon foot shape. So, that's kind of positive. And you don't have to worry if these stitches are a little bit sloppy. In most cases, you're going to be covering them with shoes, socks, something. I guess you could be an animal crosser that is barefoot, but if you're going to be doing that, then make sure your stitches are clean. I'm not your dad. I'm not going to tell you what to do. Use a running stitch for the ears. A lot of socks have that hard ridge at the toe, so you'll see I'm kind of using that as a guide to keep my ears symmetrical. That's the back of the head, by the way. You're not going to see that on the front. Then we can start closing up our limbs with the ladder stitch. Poke those little seams down in there so they don't come popping out later. And then we can start sewing those onto the body. This is just kind of a basic loop around. So you push it through on the leg side and then push it through on the body side. Just do that over and over until it's on there nice and secure. You know, those limbs, you want them to be floppy. Just kind of, well, I want them to be floppy. You know, just, where am I going with this? Stitching the limbs this way gives you a little ragdoll joint, which, you know, is just a nice aesthetic that I want to go for. You know, you want your Animal Crosser to sit down, take a little break, take a breather. Now in my old videos that were on my previous channel, Level Select, I used to do the stitching tutorials inside my videos, but I just kind of leaned out of doing that because it seemed as though it would be redundant. You know, if you're watching these videos on a regular basis, you're going to see the same stitching tutorial every week. You know, I'm thinking about just making those their own sort of separate basics series, little playlist. So let me know if that seems appealing to you, and let me know what things you might want to see just as standalone tutorials that you can reference later on. Now that body's all done. Like I said, real simple build and floppy, cute, a lot of potential. And you can do this in all color flesh tones that you can find. Got a darker skin tone here, and got another one right here. You can see it had a little whoopsie there where the thread got all sort of knotted up, but you put a piece of clothing over that and nobody's gonna notice. We're just gonna move on with our lives. You know, some people are a little different. Some people had appendicitis, full body appendicitis. And so you got 3 great, wait, no, where'd this monkey come from? Yeah, that's right. You can make other Animal Crossers with this same body. You can make most of the Animal Crossing cast with this similar body type. So let's go ahead and make one that's most similar, which is this gorilla. This big, chonky gorilla. This chonking, this unit right here. We're talking about Pee-wee. This body's based on Pee-wee. You know, he is he was one of the first Animal Crossing villagers that I had ever met back on the GameCube. So soft spot for him. Shout out to Pee-wee. And you got a nice dark gray sock here. So the head is pretty similar to the body shape, just with a sharper point on the end. I guess just like an egg. Just got an egg head. But the body's all basically the same. You'll take the potato for the body and just invert it so that it's more top heavy than bottom heavy, because, you know, he beefy. Then we take a little light gray sock and, you know, it's gonna cover his face there. The thing about the animals is that while they're the same general shape, they do have sort of some, you know, intricacies about them. So, you know, Pee-wee, I think, is the most normal gorilla villager. That's why I think it was a good example of using this body in a different purpose. And you see here we got a little rectangle that we're gonna stitch into an oval. Make that a little, I guess, like a football shape. Yeah, you see that? Then we got a nice furrowed brow, that gorilla brow that we'll ladder stitch onto the front there. You know, it's basically just a rectangle that's been rolled up and then stitched over there. Now this part's real cool. I haven't done this type of mouth in a long time, but you'll see here, we got these nice gorilla lips. And so a real cool way to make that pursed lip effect is we're gonna use this middle seam as a guide. We're running that thread right up in between there. And all you gotta do is move your thread up through one side and then come back down and meet at the seam again, and then come out the other side. So basically what you're doing is you are creating tension above and below that seam, and then it's creating this sort of crevice right in the middle. Get a little bit closer there. You can see that a little bit better. So you see how we make a hump on the underside of the seam, and then a hump on the top side of the seam. And that tension from the thread being pulled over top creates these nice gorilla lips, making these... Who's texting me? I ain't answering that. Alright, so we can also use this pinching method to create the nostrils, or create a sort of suggestion of the nostrils by passing that back and forth there. Then we can ladder stitch those the mouth onto the face. And we've got some monkey ears here. They're a little bit pointy compared to the human ears. And we're also going to stuff that up a little bit. You see, we're stuffing that up because we're going to use that pinching method again to create... I don't know why the gorillas have more defined earlobes than the humans, but, you know, I'm not going to argue with it. We're just going to try and represent that as best we can. Then we got that gorilla belly. That's just an oval. And we're going to, you know, ladder stitch that along the front. So a good rule of thumb that I think I discovered for the gorilla style villager is that the legs are a lot shorter than the arms. So, you know, compared to a regular human villager, the arms are going to be like 1.5 times the length, and then the legs are going to be sort of a quarter of the length. You know, you end up with the legs being almost half the length of the arms. Look at this little gorilla butt. I made the gorilla butt by just making 2 little feet, stuffing those up individually, and then ladder stitching them together, create a little butt crevasse. A little red dot is kind of unfortunate, wasn't it? I didn't plan that. That just kind of happened. Got a little gorilla problem going on back there. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. Then we, you know, get that nice monkey butt angle to finish sewing that through. And there he is. That's a really great base model for Pee-wee. I mean, especially for a handmade doll. Got a lot of character, a lot of personality. And once we end up actually putting features onto this guy, you'll, you know, he'll really come alive. But that's it. That's what I hope was a pretty comprehensive tutorial on making a base body for your Animal Crossing handmade buddies. Stay tuned for an upcoming video because I am going to get into making faces for your Animal Crossing player characters. To do that, you know, a bit more in depth, show some variations on that, as well as getting into some clothes, how to dress these characters. So thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed yourselves, and let me know what else you, just let me know your favorite Animal Crossing villager, alright? So, until next time, keep making stuff, and adios.